And, while we're really excited and passionate about Fello, which is what we built, we're also going to kind of we're really going to focus more on some of the strategies that anyone can apply to their business, whether they're a Fello user or not. Not that I don't care if you become a Fello user or not. Obviously, we feel very passionate about what we're building, but really what we're most passionate about is helping people generate more listings and becoming predictable and strategic around it, and building that foundational component of their business. I hear Bobby saying, I can't hear. Oh, it looks like that's Bobby and not us. Deanna can hear us. Cool. So we're going to jump in. And before we, kind of talk about strategy, I just want a little bit about why this is really important to us and a little bit about myself and Kerry. So like Deanna said, I own and operate the #1 large team and number 15 large team in the country in Ohio, the young team. Our team has always been listing based. We sell about 500 homes a year. We have 15 agents. Our average agent sells about 40 homes a year, and we've been able to do that by scaling through listings, right? And over time, the strategies that we took with the young team and how we got our team members on average to sell 40 homes a year was we've kind of applied a lot of that to Fello from an automation and building technology around it. We launched Fello about 18 months ago. We have about 1,300 teams on the platform. We work with a lot of the biggest teams all over the country, and we're super proud of that. But before we jump into that, I want to show you something. I practice what I preach, and this is full vulnerability, transparency to the young team's numbers. And I know this is a little small, but if you can see, and this is why I believe so strongly, and I'm so committed to helping people generate listings. Over the past couple years, and even in a down market for listings, when inventory has been extremely tight, right? This is the young team's numbers. And so last year we had a down year in 2023, selling 400 homes a year, but we sold 224 listings and 177 buyers. What I want you to really look at is look at the average listing commission. So in 2023, our average listing commission was about 3.25%, and our average buyer commission was about 2.25%. Look at how much more leverage from a unit economic standpoint I have in the profitability I have around listings. The year before that, the average listing was 12.3 compared to the buy side was 6,900. The year before that, my average listing was 9,800 and the buy side was 6,600. If you have a team, right, and I know there's some team leaders, but also some team members, individual agents on here, a lot of teams like ourselves, our listing partners get 30%, and our average buyer agent split is about 45%. So not only are we making more money on the list side, but our splits to those agents are less because I can actually consistently produce listing opportunities for them, which allows me to ultimately have a little bit more leverage in the relationship and creates a little bit more scale in the relationship. So as you can see, not just the financial side and the profitability side of why I feel listings are really important, but here are some other reasons. And ironically, we created this maybe 6 weeks ago before the NAR ruling, and it says in the bottom right, the future of the NAR ruling. And now we know what the ruling is. The industry is going to be completely changing. Obviously, there is buyer representation is going to look significantly different. And one of the things that I think all teams need, and we've been preaching this for a long time, is the ability to consistently produce listings. And if you do not have some sort of strategy around that, I am confident that you are going to really struggle with the changes that are happening within our industry. And so what we're hoping is that we can help you create some predictability and some strategy around consistent lead generation. So Deanna, I see you popping back in. Can we grab that? There we go. Thank you. So let's jump into it and let's kind of talk about why potentially listings haven't been a focus. Historically, buyer leads were very accessible. There's over 100 million buyer leads sold year over year. And when you think of when you get a buyer lead, think about what it looks like when it comes in. Hey, I want to go see this home tomorrow. Can we see this house as soon as possible? Buyer leads want instant gratification versus seller leads are a much longer life cycle. And we'll kind of show you what that looks like. Buyer leads are more accessible. It's a little bit harder to generate more seller leads. Buyer leads have a quicker sales cycle. Seller leads are a longer nurture, right? And so one of the things I think you'll see is historically over the past 10 years, we kind of took the easy path and said, well, buyer leads are really easy to get. I can go to Zillow, Realtor.com, PPC, Ojo, whatever it may be. And there's an abundance of buyer leads, and they're really, those people want to take action now. And seller leads have always been a little bit harder to scale. And so one of the things that we found is that your database is your largest asset. And if you can start converting listings out of your database, and we're going to show you how to do so, you are going to see you can create a lot of scale and predictability into generating a listing-based business and creating a lot of, I would say, consistency and profitability through this model, okay? On average, 5% of your database will list your home this year. And that number might seem really aggressive, right? Like, how is 5% of my database going to list, but I'm only getting so many listings from my database? Think about it. If you have 1,000 contacts in your database, that means 50 listings a year. If you have 10,000, that means 500 listings a year. And a lot of times when people say, well, this number just seems really high, I'm not seeing that many people listing in their database. What we also see is about 80% of people's databases are buyer leads, and they don't have an address attached to them, okay? And so if you don't even know where 80% of your database lives, how do you know if they're listing their home or not, right? And so one of the things at Fello that we've learned and we've observed is, because we convert buyer leads into seller leads within the database, and then we have a lot of data and insights that show when those people are listing their home, that 5% of your database is listing their home every year. And our job and our focus is, how do we help you convert more of those? So Kerry's going to kind of take it over with this funnel strategy that we've helped thousands of agents start to convert buyer leads and seller leads in their database into listings.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Again, I'm Kerry Kleckner. I'm our director of sales here at Fello, and I've worked with thousands of our clients who are both team leaders as well as individual agents on our platform to execute this strategy. The strategy I'm going to walk you through here over the next couple of slides, you can do with or without Fello. Fello is here just to make it really, really easy for you. And if you're interested in this strategy afterwards, I am going to be popping up some promotions that we have exclusive with sold.com. And then Ryan's going to wrap us up with some additional training and coaching that he's going to provide to the group as well. But anchoring us back on what Ryan just said. All right. So we know about 5% of your database is going to list their home this year. And I can say that with absolute conviction because I have worked with agents who have 200 contacts in their database. I have worked with an agent who has 2 million contacts in their team's database. Both of them, every single time, no matter your market, no matter your size, no matter your average sale price, it always works out to about 5%. And there are several reasons why most of that 5% is not listing with you. The first thing is that you do not know who the homeowners are. So how do you build a listing-based business based on contacts with email addresses when you don't know if they're a homeowner, right? The first step is to build a database of homeowners. I know our partners at sold.com are doing a great job of that with you, but you may have another pond or portion of your database that is buyers. So that's the first thing that we're going to attack together. We also know that, we've been conditioned through the buyer lead strategy for that instant gratification to follow up for a couple months, and then they go off into a pond somewhere. And we hope that when they come back, they are going to list with us. And as a result, that's a really leaky funnel. And that's exactly what we here at Fello are here to try to solve with you. Our goal is to create a database that turns itself into a listing engine for you, right? How do we make sure that we're turning your current database into a database of homeowners? How do we automate the messaging to them to make sure that we're getting the right message to the right seller at the right time and things are not falling through the cracks? And then how do we, at the end of the day, we've got to convert, right? So how do we make sure that we're setting you up for conversion and getting that listing appointment at the end of the day, but also how are we measuring that? So I'll go into that a little bit more here on our next couple slides. Fello can do this for you. All right. So this is how we attack it here at Fello. Again, you can take a lot of these strategies off on your own. But if you're interested in learning more about how we can help you with that here at Fello, we'll populate our promo and our demo link if you want to learn more once we're through these next couple slides. At the top of the funnel, we focus on generate. So generating more leads is based on attaching addresses to your current buyer leads. But we also have some tools that I'll show you on the next slide that help make your lead acquisition a bit stickier for sellers. We then automate the nurturing strategy to everyone in that database, but we believe in getting the right message to the right person at the right time. What that means is that it is not one size fits all with sellers, right? It's got to be one-to-one about their home, their equity position, their financial strategy, and where they are in their own selling journey. Buyer leads, again, instant gratification, whereas seller leads may take 6 months, a year, 2, 3, 4 years of nurturing to be ready to list that home with you. And so what strategies do you have running on automation to make sure you're getting those right messaged to them along the way? And then conversion. So Fello is going to actually show you what is converting in your database with or without you, which is a little bit of a heartburn, a little bit of a gut punch, but that's the only way that we get better together. Tactically, how do we do this at the generate stage here at Fello? So at Fello, you'll be paired with a dedicated customer success manager who's really going to be offering you white glove service and taking you through this strategy. So it's not overwhelming. And they've done it with thousands of our clients, and they'll be plugging into your database and implementing those strategies. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to upload that database and we're going to start attaching those addresses that you may be missing. And then we're also going to help you capture more leads, whether that's by improving your website conversion, and Ryan's going to show you what he's done for his own team here in a bit, or using some of our QR codes or URLs or other capture tools to make sure that if you are spending money on lead acquisition or you're driving traffic to your website, that you have the best chance to capture that person as a seller lead. A lot of that traction historically has been buyer lead traction going to an IDX feed. And if you're getting them there, how do you also identify who the sellers are and have a sticky journey for them? So Fello provides you with all of those tools. At the automate stage, we are doing a few things. We are doing some mass email, but again, it's going to be one-to-one to that seller. So making sure that the experience that they click into in that email is about them and their home. And so we can do things like if someone's been in the home for 10 plus years and they've got a square footage over 3,000, maybe we talk to them about downsizing, versus that's going to be a very different message than someone who maybe has recently expired on the MLS with another agent, versus somebody who has a home value over in the multi-millions. We want to talk to them about a luxury listing, versus someone with a lower home value. We may want to talk about your guaranteed sale or your offer program, right? So again, with sellers, it's got to be one-to-one. It's got to be personal. We can't just be blasting out messages, and Fello handles all of that for you. We also do layer on direct mail on top of that. Again, we don't believe in doing it in mass. We use data and bring in both MLS, public record, national mortgage data to understand where is that lowest hanging fruit, or where is that opportunity in your database, and let's spend on direct mail in a very responsible way. So my team will take you through that as well. And then on the conversion piece, again, this is where it kind of hurts on day one on your first launch call with your CSM. But we're going to show you in the database that you have today, how much of that 5% is falling through the cracks. And we're going to set a goal for where we want to be in the future, right? And we're going to understand every single month that you're with Fello, we're going to be making sure that we're on pace for those goals, and that more and more of those listings that are already occurring in that database that you've already paid for and you've already spent a lot of time, energy, effort, resources, money on building, that those listings are occurring with you. Right. And so I think that's really important, that so many of us have been blind to in the past. If we know where we win, but we're not exactly sure what we're losing, and we don't know what the value of that database truly is. And that's really been a huge difference for so many of our teams who have joined Fello. I'm going to wrap us up on the Fello piece. I'm going to pop up that promo here in a second and pass it over to Ryan. But I'll just end with this. Here at Fello, our number one belief is that the winning teams of the future will have transformed their databases into assets that are consistently generate listings. We do not need to be married to constantly buying new leads when we know that 5% of that database that you already have is going to list their home this year. But what are we doing to capture that? So with that, I see the promo to request a demo if you want to learn more about Fello and how we do it has popped up. And I'm going to pass it back on over to Ryan.
Yeah, thank you so much. And one of the things that we found is that real seller feature. Imagine getting an email, and with the young team, I see it every day and it stings. Imagine getting an email every day of the won but also lost opportunities in your database and all the addresses and people in your database that are listing their home without you. It has created so much, I would say, ownership and responsibility within my real estate team, because now there's true visibility and transparency on what's happening. And all of a sudden you'll see people that told you weren't going to list their home for another 6 months or a year ended up listing, or a past client that you thought was you had a great relationship ended up listing. And it just completely changes the way we look at our database. And Fello does an amazing job creating automated engagement. Like Kerry said, the right person to write the right message to the right person at the right time, really leveraging where they are in the sales cycle to make sure we're getting the right messaging to them. Whether it's focusing they're more bottom of funnel and we're going with a higher intent message versus they're more top of funnel and it's more of a lower intent message. And when you look at this right here, we've looked at millions and millions and millions of data points. We're sending over 40 million emails a month. We've created almost 1 million seller leads in the past 18 months. We have a lot of data because we have public record data and MLS data to show us when those people are transacting. And so we have some really granular data that shows us how quickly leads are actually converting. And one of the things that I think to kind of go back to what I first start with, most seller leads, especially home value leads, just convert. They take a longer time to incubate. So when you look at a seller's home value life cycle, 18 to 36 months, it's really hard if your strategy is, I'm going to just go buy a bunch of home value leads and try to turn them into listings. Well, only 8% of those are going to go to market within 12 months, right? So what you need is some sort of incubation mechanism to start working those home value leads, to work them all the way down the funnel until they either cash offer or sell your home, where you can see the life cycle starts to shorten and the conversion starts to go up significantly within a 12-month span, right? So besides Fello, if you really want to get into the seller game, and like I said, my team's we're selling about 300 listings a year. Here are some other recommendations outside of Fello that I would highly recommend that you do if you really want to get intentional with becoming a listing-based agent. You need to have a really strong Google presence. And as you can see with the young team, and I know it's small, but we have 1,100 5-star reviews, right? We've worked really hard to build that up. Sellers Google search you and who you are and if you are qualified to sell their home. Buyers could care less. Buyers want relationships. Buyers want door openers. Buyers want convenience, right? And most sellers are much more transactional. And so sellers are going to look you up before they let you come into their home. How many Google reviews do you have? What's the first thing they see when they Google your name, right? So this is a very strong start to really starting to become serious about and intentional about having a listing-based business. Then when they get to your website, what is the first thing they see? Most buyers aren't Googling realtors. They're searching for homes for sale in a certain area, which will normally take them to Zillow or realtor.com. Maybe it's a paid ad that you have on one of your sites, right, where you can drive them in through some PPC. But most sellers are actually Googling organically top agents in Northeast Ohio or wherever your geographical area is. And then when they get to your website, what's the first thing that they see? Do they see search for homes or do they see seller messaging? So when you land on theyoungteam.com, the first thing you see is a home value banner. How much is my home really worth? And get a guaranteed offer on my home. And whether you do a guaranteed offer or you don't, right? You do a cash offer or you don't, you got to have some sort of strong seller messaging. Get your home value in seconds, sell your home, download our 20 points to getting your home ready before it hits the market. You need seller messaging on this journey where a seller is starting to go through this process. First, they search, they find you on Google, then they go from Google to your website. You need seller messaging, okay? Something also that's really important, and these are some KPIs that my team watches very closely if you really want to start building a listing-based business, all right? What percent of your database are local homeowners? And if you can't answer that question, you should take a demo with Fello and you should really start changing your database strategy, because that is where the majority of our listings come from, is our database. And so if you know how many contacts you have in your database, but you can't identify how many of those are local homeowners, that is a challenge foundationally for you having a listing-based business. The Young Team, we have about 40,000 contacts in our database. We have a little bit of a bigger team, right? We have 31,000 addresses attached to those 40,000. We are working really intentionally to find where those people live, leveraging Fello to incubate those people, to get them to raise their hand, right? Using great platforms like sold.com to focus and build our database on sellers, okay? How many seller leads are you generating a month? Now that we know how many homeowners we have in our database, if you're not buying seller leads, how many are you producing out of your database, okay? What are the conversion of those seller leads? Do you know these answers? Then when it comes to actual listing conversion metrics, how many contacts do you need to make in order to set an appointment? How many of those appointments actually hold? How many of those held appointments turn into an agreement signed? And then how many of them in today's market, I'm assuming the majority of them actually turn into a commission, right? There's not a lot of fall through. Maybe some people change their mind, or they're grossly overpriced, or they're just misaligned with what the market is. But right now we're seeing about 90% of our listings turn to pending contracts, and 90% of those turn to sold listings. A couple other metrics that are important are, what's your average days on market? And are you watching that, right? What percentage of your inventory is expiring or being withdrawn? How much is your average commission? So I told you that one of the first slides I showed you was the reason why I am so focused on seller lead gen. My average commission on the seller side on listings is almost 1% higher than on the buy side, right? That's going to be really interesting what happens in July as things start to change. We've just seen a lot of commission compression to the buyers, to the buyer agents in our market. And it's been a little bit of a struggle over the past couple of years. We've seen some compression on the buy side. How much of that are you retaining? So, on the, if you have a team, right? If you have a team, what is your splits with your agents? And do you have a little bit more leverage with them on the listing side, because you can consistently produce listing opportunities or seller opportunities? And lastly, what is your price adjustment strategy? My team, we have a 10% adjustment week, 10% a week adjustment strategy. I know that seems like in the current market, why would I need an adjustment strategy? But our team on average has between 40 to 50 active listings. That inventory starts to add up, and it costs expenses to manage and maintain those. If you don't have a strategy around making adjustments on those, all of a sudden your inventory is going to get stagnant, and it's going to hurt the economics of it, okay? So 7 steps to take immediately if you want to start transforming your business into a listing-based business. Step up your profile, website, and seller messaging. If you want, Google the Young Team, Cleveland, wherever you're at geographically. You probably have to add Cleveland into so that it pulls us up. But Google the Young Team, Cleveland, and just look at our profile. Look at our Google My Business. Look at how strong it is. If you were a seller and you were looking for an agent to help you sell your home, how would that make you feel when you saw that? Click on my website. Look at how much seller-focused messaging there is on my website. And these are the commitments that we've made to list over 300 homes a year, right? Not saying you have to do this, but if you really want to start moving the needle and being really seller-focused, these are a couple things that are really going to move the needle. Get seller marketing assets everywhere. Our team, everywhere you go, in our email signature, get your home value. On our moving truck, get your home value. On our brochures, open houses, signs, we have QR codes, get your home value. Social media, get a cash offer on your home, get your home value. We have seller messaging everywhere so we can build our database organically with sellers, right? Build a strong homeowner database by converting those buyer leads in your database to seller opportunities, or find out where they live. We have found in a little growth hack, whether you use Fello or not, is if you send an email to every single person in your database that you don't have an address and say, would you like the most up-to-date CMA on your home or up-to-date market value on your home? See how many people reply back and say, yes, please, and here's my address, right? Fello just automates this entire process, but you really have to start becoming intentional about converting those buyer leads into sellers. Automate consistent messaging centered around home value. That's just going to keep them engaged and warm while you're lead generating. Segment your messaging based on property attributes and consumer behavior. So in Fello, we really like to segment your database by if they have a mortgage or not, or what is their interest rate, how long they've been in their home. People that have been in their home longer than shorter, there's a different message that's more appealing to them, right? If their home's a certain price point, if it's over a certain price point, like Kerry said, we want to make sure the messaging reflects that they're in a certain price point. You'll see the relevancy of the message equates to the conversion in the engagement with them. Start tracking seller metrics. I told you some of the team that my team does, and then start building a seller-based business. So super excited. Kerry, why don't you tell them if they want to take some next steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had the request a demo with the promo popped up. I'm going to brag on Ryan here for a second and pop up another offer for our 30-day listing challenge, which kicked off today. You do not need to be a Fello user to join. Ryan actually set 30 listing appointments out of his own database as a team leader using Fello in April. And he went live on social media and he went viral, and every day he was taking videos of how many he had set that day. And he built a playbook for the scripts and the strategies that he used to set those 30 listing appointments. The handout that I just populated is Ryan's playbook. So again, you do not need to be a Fello user to take advantage of it, but a lot of the tools that he's going to suggest Fello does provide, and we'd love to talk to you about it on a demo if you're interested. To answer a couple more of the questions that have come in through the chat, there's been some questions about, is Fello for teams only, or do we have some for single agents? Fello is for everyone. We have plans for single agents just starting out with only a few hundred contacts in their database, all the way up to large mega teams and brokerages with hundreds of thousands to millions of contacts in their database. So everything with Fello is going to be about your database size, and we'll get a custom plan over to you on your demo. With that, Deanna, I'll bring you back on. Any other questions or parting thoughts that we can help with?
No, I think this is great. I think the biggest thing that I think means so much to me is Ryan is a successful agent. I think it always holds a little bit more water, right? Within this, I've been in and around this real estate space for so long, and tech companies emerge all the time, right? And they're all trying to sell you some product. And as real estate agents, I've seen crazy things try to be sold to you guys. Like literally, sometimes I'm like, what are some people thinking signing up for that? But I guess to each their own. But I think what holds water is when you have somebody who, this was their business, right? They did this every single day, and they've actually proven out that this helped them be who they are today, get to where they are today. And then they productized it, right? They said, if I can do these steps, why can't I help every agent across the country do the exact same thing? So it's not just some like tech guy coming out and saying like, this would be cool if you guys could do this. We've heard that over and over and over again. This is actually saying, I built a successful business. I linked in the chat the Google search. If you did Google Ryan Young with the Young team, and I noted in there that it's a 1,157 Google.
Ooh, we're up. Nice.
Yeah. So Ryan, you're going to be walking away with a really big head after this webinar, rightfully so. But I think the key thing is that listings is where everybody should have probably always had some focus into. As you're getting new into the business, the buyer stuff is a little bit easier to get in front of, right? Sometimes there's a lot of buyer options out there, but at the end of the day, to truly create this large, scalable and lengthy business, it is the listing front. And so this is why, again, like I mentioned, that the sold.com relationship and the collaboration with Fello is just such an easy and seamless thing, because the key thing is you need to generate, like, it's a cyclical thing. You need to generate new business. You need to get people coming into your funnel. The fact of the matter is most of the leads that you're generating today aren't going to be ready to do something today. And so where many agents lose is they are looking for that instant gratification. When it doesn't happen, those leads die in your database, and it doesn't mean they're dead. For sold.com, we just recently ran our stats, and I think I shared this with you, Kerry and Ryan, on our last call, was we found that 72% of the people that we talked to and introduced to agents through our leads are listing their house within 4 years. Now, sure, is it a bummer that you might not see that client come into fruition until 4 years down the road? Yeah, of course, everybody wants that instant gratification. But what that's saying is that this is why the Fello product is great, is I can guarantee that most of you guys have thousands of leads that you have already paid for sitting in your database today that are now hitting that sweet spot of 18 months, 4 years from now, that are finally ready to do something, and you may have discounted them. So there is a ton of stuff sitting in your database. So yes, fill your funnel with the new stuff, get the low hanging fruit, get the stuff that is ready now, but then also don't forget and neglect the people that you guys have sitting in your database, because there's gold sitting in there. And so whether you're doing it yourself or you aren't, and you're using a system like Fello, keep yourself accountable, right? That's how we all need to work. If you can do all this stuff yourself, just the way that Ryan started his business, great. But at the end of the day, it's all about accountability and making sure that you have consistency in doing it. And that's the thing that a lot of us don't have. And that's why we do have to look at companies like Fello in order for us to actually create that consistency.
Well, and Deanna, I think that you're so spot on. And what people don't know, I started in 2009, right? Great time to get into real estate. The market was absolutely in like the worst place ever. For the first like 5 years, I built my business on expireds and FSBOs, and it's like, so I was doing all outbound calling. People were yelling at me, it was like a much different mindset, just where we were. I was 26 years old. It was like the only option, right? It was the only opportunity there was. There was a lot of expireds during that time. If you can make a commitment to building a listing-based business, this is not an overnight thing, right? This is a long-term commitment to you saying, I want to change the direction, the shape, the vision of my business. And it is a gradual, step-by-step commitment. I didn't have 1,150, whatever, 5-star reviews in a day, right? That's been over the past 5-6 years of us being really intentional about doing those, because we saw how much it moves the needle once we started to see people saying, hey, I found you on Google, and we saw that you had 200, 100, whatever it was, 5-star reviews. We're like, wow, people are actually noticing this. I know that myself, when I'm looking as a consumer at products, I'm looking at reviews. We need more 5-star reviews. And we became really intentional with that, right? And the same thing with the seller-facing website, and the same thing with getting our database. At one point, we were buying a ton of buyer leads, maybe 7-8 years ago. And we said, these are converting at a really, really low conversion, and they're just sitting in our database and we're not doing anything with them. How can we start warming them up to turn them into sellers? And the one thing that I tell my team all the time is, and if whether you use Fello or not, I think what's most important is you should be able to look at your entire database, the people that you have addresses for. And if I went through it one by one with you, you should be able to tell me what their selling timeline looks like, right? And every person that you talk to in your database, it's not if they are going to sell, it's a matter of when they are going to sell. And if you start approaching your database through that lens, where you say, oh, Deanna, I know she's not going to sell her home for 3 years. And Kerry, she has her youngest is a junior in high school. So in 2 years from now, she's going to sell. And this person retires in 4 years. So then they're going to sell. We're building, I have lined up for 3 to 4 years from now, right? And I know that's like, well, but that's 3 to 4 years from now. But in 3 to 4 years, it's going to be nice when you have 20, 50, 100 listings already ready to go because you've been incubating them for this long period of time. And so it's really a mindset shift of like, if you want to get into the seller game, you have to realize it's not immediate instant gratification. There's some wins, right? But this is building and completely reshaping the direction of your business. And that's what with Fello, with the 30-day challenge, we sell a product, but really we're a community of basically industry leaders that are committed to helping people take more listings, so. Yeah,
100%. And actually one thing to call out is everybody in your webinar experience, you see a handouts option. Kerry and Ryan provided a playbook that you guys can access as well. Look through that playbook. There are scripts, there are things that you guys can use in there that are super helpful. And that's what I mean. What's really cool about Ryan and his team is that, yes, they have Fello, they have ways that you guys can utilize them, but also like they're serving up on a platter for free, like keys to success and things that you can be doing with those different scripts. If you're already part of the sold.com network, as I read through that, there are a ton of different things that you guys can take into your sold.com business and working those leads. But hopefully this also gives you a different lens to look at your sold.com leads. So for those of you guys who are already in the sold.com network, again, hopefully you guys took a key takeaway of, hey, maybe I looked at my sold.com leads and thought like, I called that guy and he told me he was just curious about his home valuation. Waste of time. Now look at it of like, really, what's this guy's journey? Maybe it is going to be 4 years from now. Hopefully it's not that long, but think about that pipeline. You have to start somewhere. And like Ryan said, if you can start to do that, you have to start with that pipeline, building it. But then as time goes on, that pipeline starts to what I refer to as pop. And so look at your sold.com leads with a different lens. If you are not part of sold.com yet, and this is the first time you're hearing about us because you heard about this webinar through Fello and our LinkedIn posts, in the link to schedule the demo, you'll see 2 different CTAs that exist there. One is that you can request the demo with Fello. The other is that you can create your free sold.com profile. So if you're not already in our network, definitely take advantage of that. If you don't know already, joining the sold.com network is entirely free. So to be in our network and be eligible for seller leads, and we are 100% seller lead focused, you can join that network and be eligible for those leads. And our team will call you back to talk a little bit more about generally how that works. But I really appreciate everybody's time. We did record this, so we will be circulating everything out, including all the links. So if anybody missed anything or just didn't have the access to pulling it up here. But Kerry, Ryan, thank you guys so much. Ryan, I hope you walk away with the big ego that you deserve. You've built a great product, but also a great business. But I think the thing to make sure that everyone understands is that when you see a successful agent, it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen without a ton of hard work, without tons of grinding into what they need to do, but also just generally time. Like Ryan said, like that number one, the reviews didn't happen overnight, but also like the effort that he's putting into those clients who are just curious or he's just making introductions to eventually do something. And the key is now making sure that they do something with you, keeping yourself relevant enough that it's you.
And one of the things, just really quick before we wrap, that I think is it is very hard when Deanna said those stats about 72% over 4 years are going to list their home. If you don't have some sort of incubation strategy, right, to stick with them, automated, methodical, intentional, right, it is very hard that when they do list, that it's a very low probability that they're going to list with you. Versus, and I know Kerry showed you some slides about an automatic engine, right? The more you can keep them warm and keep incubating them, you will see that your conversion on those opportunities is going to skyrocket. And so be very intentional with that. Understand the life cycle, but the incubation mechanism is really the most important functionality of it, so.
Yeah, 100%. And I know we've gone over, but I think, like, as you said that, I think in this industry, we should have always had this mindset, but I think especially with all these changes, everybody should be truly looking at themselves as an advisor when they're talking to their clients, right? We all want to sell homes. We all want that end result. We all want that commission check. And so I think sometimes that can get in the way, especially, if you're dependent on that to pay all your bills and stuff. We get it. But sometimes your you're kind of squashing that intention by taking the wrong approach with those people. I recently talked to somebody and I said, think about my tax guy. I've been using the same tax guy for a number of years. Throughout the year, I have questions. We want to get new windows on our house. And so I send him an email and say, hey, are there any tax incentives if we get new windows on our property? He's pretty quick to reply, lets us know, right? There's nothing that, like, if I answer Deanna with this maybe dumb question, do I get money off of answering this question? No. But by him providing me that value and him being somebody as a resource that I can go to with all my stupid questions, he's kind of guaranteeing that next tax season, I can come back to him. He doesn't need to necessarily do this marketing. And so that's really what you're trying to position yourself as, is you need to be this ongoing advisor. Stop caring solely about, can I get this paycheck off of this one person? Let them, like, and that's what like the Fello system does for you, is it keeps you guys relevant, keep them up to date on what's going on. It keeps them helping understand, like, hey, a house just sold down the street. Just letting you know, FYI, right? It's just letting them know, like, I'm just letting you know because I'm an advisor, and let's see how that impacts you. The fact that this house just sold for $1.2 million, would it be helpful for us to understand what your house could be worth? And it's not so you can sell your home, right? It's just little key things like that.
And the real quick, the entrepreneur in me, when you just said our tax guy, I reached out to him and asked if there's a benefit. The entrepreneur in me says he should go turn around to all of his rest of his database and say, I just had a client reach out and they weren't aware that there's actually huge tax savings if you replace your windows from an energy credit or whatever it may be. I just wanted to provide value to you, right? Yep. So it's like, that's what Fello does but it's just all automated, you know? And it's like, but it's so spot on. It's like the entrepreneur should always be thinking, when people come to me with questions, I should distribute that information to my entire network and community to be the trusted advisor, so that, you know, they come back to you when they're ready.
Yeah. So when you have sometimes that annoying client who's bothering you, you at least know that that person is reliant on you. And so, yes, sometimes you can't wait for that transaction to finally close. You don't have to talk to them for a while, but that annoying person has 100% bought into, you are my person. And so now you just got to put on that smiley face and answer the questions that they have. Yeah. But thank you guys again so much. Like I said, we'll be sharing all this information again in an email. And we are excited to have you guys, Fello, as a partner of ours. I think they're just, you know, everything is very much in line with what we do. I don't think that this will be the last time that you are seeing Ryan and Kerry. You can also check them out if you're already in the soul.com network within your agent portal. You'll see them listed in there too. So you can always reach out to them as well through that. But thanks, everybody. I look forward to working with all of you again, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.